Welcome to another Aging Matters show, a program featuring individuals who talk about aging-related topics of interest to older adults and their families. I'm Cheryl Beversdorf, your host. For older adults with a hearing loss, hearing aids are often essential to their well-being and daily functioning. In certain circumstances, however, these individuals may require something more to hear a conversation, talk on the phone, or increase the sound level. Hearing assistive devices are designed to be useful in these types of situations. Today, my guest is Debbie Jones, Resource and Technology Manager with the Northern Virginia Resource Center for Deaf and Hard of Hearing Persons. Debbie will provide information about hearing loss and how the condition is diagnosed. She's also going to talk about the large array of hearing assistive devices currently available and explain the situation where each one can be used. Later in today's program, Debbie will show us some of these hearing assistive devices and explain the mechanism that helps an individual who is deaf or has a hearing loss. So thank you, Debbie, for joining me today.
Thank you for asking me.
Well, I want to get started here today by giving a little basic information about hearing loss. It would be helpful to understand a little bit more about the causes, and then after that, perhaps the warning signs. I would imagine there are different causes that might be involved. So tell us about them.
Sure. There's actually a lot of different causes for hearing loss, and we don't always know which cause might be the issue. Sometimes hearing loss just happens.
All right.
But there can be genetic factors. It can run in families. When folks get ill with a very high fever, that can cause damage to the hearing mechanism. Noise is a big factor.
I've heard that a lot, especially amongst young people who then over time might have issues as they grow older.
Exactly.
Is that true?
Folks who listen to loud music, who work in factories, military service, who enjoy hunting, all of these things can have an impact on your hearing. Even certain medications. If you're undergoing certain medical treatments where they have to give you very high doses of medications, some of those medications can damage your hearing.
The side effects, perhaps, right. And they don't even know until it might be too late. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So then, as that occurs, what do people experience? What are some of the signs of hearing loss?
It can be a range of things. You may start to notice behaviors before you actually start to notice that you're missing things. So are you leaning forward to hear people better? Are you turning one ear or the other because you understand people better? Do you need to put your glasses on to understand them better? We all lip read a lot without realizing it.
And we have to look at people, yes.
That's right.
Right.
For some people, their ears may feel full, like they've got cotton balls stuffed in their ears. You may have ringing in your ears, which can be an indicator of hearing loss, and is certainly a sign that you need to go visit your doctor.
Yeah, and I know sometimes people might say, pardon me, more, because they're not catching things or they're misunderstanding. Is that also a possibility?
Right. Misunderstandings are a big part of it. Asking to repeat. Their family members may notice that the TV is getting louder or the radio is getting louder. Oh, Mom, the TV is up so loud, let's turn it down.
Right, right.
People are mumbling. Oh, I don't want to go there. All they do is mumble. And they may start to withdraw from social situations because it's just too hard to understand.
And it's embarrassing, I would imagine.
Be. When you misunderstand, oh, do you have the time? Do you have a dime? And you're answering the wrong question.
Right.
That can be an issue.
Right. So are there different types of hearing loss that older adults experience? I mean, is it always the same, or can it be degrees, or are they hearing other things? Tell us a little bit more about what they might be experiencing.
Sure. The two major forms of hearing loss is conductive and sensory neural.
All right.
Conductive generally happens in the outer ear and middle ear, and something is wrong with the mechanism that transmits the sound from the outside into the ear. So an eardrum. So, when you've got an ear infection and your eardrum blows out.
Wow.
That's a damage to the conductive part of the hearing mechanism. When you've got damage to the tiny little bones that are in the middle ear, because they transmit that sound to the inner ear,
Yes.
that is damage to that system. When we've got ear infections and that fills up with fluid, that's a conductive hearing loss. A sensory neural hearing loss happens from the inner ear onward, and so it's nerve damage. So it's a problem with the cochlea, which is that little seashell-shaped piece in your ear that has all the little nerve fibers and then transmits the sound up to the brain.
And so, since there are two different kinds, would the symptoms then be different depending on which of those kinds of hearing loss you have, or is it still
It can
about
be
the same?
difficult to figure it out.
Oh, okay.
Which is why it's
Okay.
important to visit your doctor to see where along that hearing path
Sure.
that hearing loss is happening. And sometimes it's both. You can have
okay.
both conductive loss and a sensory neural loss.
Okay.
And so it can be overlapping, and that can be complicated.
And you led right into my next question, which was, what are the diagnostic tests? I know I've had the audiometry, and I'm assuming that's one of them, but
Yeah.
are there others? Or we'll talk about audiometry first and other tests.
Okay. Generally, what you want to do is to go get your hearing tested. So you want to go to an ENT or an audiologist. The ENT can look in your ears and take a look at the structures of your ear and make sure that nothing is damaged or blocked. Surprisingly, in that conductive range, earwax can be a big issue. And it can get impacted and block the sound.
So really you don't have a hearing loss, you just have too much earwax.
For some people, that's part of the problem.
Okay.
But the ENT can take a look at that, see if there's any physical blockages, and then they generally refer you to an audiologist who will put you in the big soundproof booth.
Yes.
And you put on the headset, and they test you usually with pure tones first. So you hear the beeps on one side,
Yes.
high pitch, low pitch, medium pitch, loud, soft, and then they switch sides.
Yes.
And then they often will give you words or words in sound with background noise. And again, they'll run it through different volumes to see where your hearing loss is happening. Is it high pitch? Is it middle pitch? Is it low pitch? They may also put a device behind your ear, here, on the mastoid bone, to see if it's a conductive loss or a sensory neural loss. That's part of that, diagnostic, making sure where in the system is the problem happening. And then they may also do, and I can never say it right, but it's a test where they put pressure in your ear to test the flexibility of the eardrum. And so this is part of that whole process of a very thorough hearing testing, which is really important to get if you feel like you're dealing with hearing loss.
And I'm assuming that based on the results of that test, then the ENT, which stands for ear, nose, and throat, and it's a physician usually,
Right.
is it? Works together, first of all, with the audiologist, and then kind of determines what is the level of hearing loss. Is
Right.
that how it works?
Right. And generally they look at hearing loss as being in different levels: mild, moderate, severe, and profound.
Okay. Well, and I know that we're going to talk a little bit later after you do your demonstration about hearing aids, just so that our viewers have some information about that. But because the area of assistive devices is your area of expertise, has this whole area really expanded? I'm thinking with the digital age, and now they're becoming much more sophisticated. But give us an overview, first of all, of what's out there and what's available for people who are wearing hearing aids.
Sure. When you're talking about hearing assistive technology or hearing assistive devices,
Yes.
Many of these devices can be used with or without a hearing aid.
Okay, I wanted to clarify that. So
Right.
it can be both, right?
It can be both.
All right.
For some people, maybe they can't afford a hearing aid right now. Maybe their hearing is so profound that sound doesn't really benefit them. for some things like an alerting device. Maybe the doorbell, they can't hear the doorbell. There's something that can flash a light. So you look at categories. Is it telephone communication? Is it one-on-one communication? Do they need signaling devices so they know what's going on in the environment? Those are the kinds of categories that you take a look at with assistive devices. And we have seen changes over the years. As our technology gets more and more sophisticated, devices themselves have gotten a lot smaller. You're now seeing more and more apps for smartphones instead of folks using a regular telephone. So there's been a lot of changes over the years.
And would these devices be both for people who have a partial hearing loss as well as those who are deaf?
Depending on what their needs are.
All right.
And that's part of what I do is I sit down with folks and we talk about the kinds of situations that they're dealing with. Is it at home? Is it at work? Is it out and about? And what kind of communication needs they have.
And with respect to these devices, how do they actually help? Do they blink, or I guess you'll show us on the demo, right?
That'll be part of the demo.
Blink or whatever, because if they make a sound, that wouldn't be as helpful. So I guess we'll look forward to. So, and as I know you're going to be doing two different types, but talk a little bit more specifically about the types that are for communicating face to face, because obviously that's the most important, our interaction with each other. So
that's a big part of what we do.
Right.
So a lot of times, if you're not able to use a hearing aid, you could use something that's called a personal amplifier. And so it's a device that gives you control over the volume of the conversation. And
Right.
so generally about the size of a deck of cards or smaller, some of them, and you would wear them with some kind of earpiece, whether that's earbuds or headphones, that kind of thing. And it lets you control that volume. It has a built-in microphone, and you can put it on the table between the two of you and have that conversation.
Okay. And then there's another kind that you're going to be showing us, and that's called an alerting device. Is that true?
The alerting devices let you
What
know
is that?
what's going on in your environment. So if the telephone rings, do you need it louder? Do you need a visual device instead of a sound? Because there are devices that can simply turn up the ring, the volume of the ring,
Right.
or change the pitch of the ring. If you're losing your high frequency sounds, but you can still hear low frequencies, maybe you just need a low pitch ring. And that kind of thing. If your doorbell rings, do you need a light that flashes? When your alarm clock goes off, do you need to flash a light or shake the bed?
That's a good one. So those are kind of the two major categories. Is that right?
Right. We
Okay.
talk, and the other one would be the telephones.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the kind of distance communication.
Well, I think we've got it all set up right, and for your demonstration. So what's going to happen next now is Debbie is going to give us some information about the different types of hearing assistive devices that are available. And then with each one, she'll explain the design and how they help a person who is deaf or has a hearing loss. So let's watch.
Hi, back again, and I've brought some devices that we talked about earlier, where we talked about telephones and signaling devices and that one-on-one communication device. A lot of times, folks just need an amplified phone. They come in different levels of amplification, 35 decibel, 50 decibel. A lot of them also, you may notice, have the great big numbers. They have volume control, and then they also have tone control, which helps you adjust the pitch. So if you hear those higher sounds better, you can boost the higher pitches to hear more. If you hear the lower sounds better, boost those up. Many of them will also have some kind of flashing device built into them. Now, mind you, it's kind of small. So unless you're looking at the phone, you might not notice it. That's why a lot of people also have signaling devices as well. But it's there to get your attention. Some people like to have the cordless phones. Now, A while ago, cordless phones were a real challenge for folks with hearing loss, because anytime you're transmitting between the base and the handset, there's opportunity for interference. But the technology has improved a lot. So again, you've got the large numbers, you have the volume control, you have the tone control, you have a visual flasher of some sort built into the phone. There are also speakerphones which can be helpful. For some people, it really helps to be able to use both ears when listening to the telephone conversation. So you have to try it out. Some people it's just garbledy, and other folks it really helps. This one also has memory dial pictures. So if you've also got cognitive issues, that can be helpful too. Sometimes, no matter how much you boost the volume, you just cannot understand what is being said. That's where a caption phone can be really helpful. It's an amplified telephone. You use it just like a regular telephone, speak into the handset, but everything that the other person says to you shows up as text across the screen. There's a couple different models of these phones out there. There's, I believe, about 3 different companies that provide caption telephones now. There's a couple different models. Some of them have touch screen, some are more like a traditional telephone. But again, you have that visual text, what the other person is saying to you, coming across the screen. So if you weren't quite sure what that word was, if you didn't quite catch what they said, you can look down at the screen. It's great for calling doctor's offices, having to make appointments where there's times and dates. It's really helpful. There's also a lot of apps now that you can take advantage of that can amplify your smartphone. There are apps for captioned calls on your smartphone. So again, as technology changes, more options for folks with hearing loss. So now you have a phone you can communicate on. How do you know when it's ringing? Maybe you just need the ring of the phone amplified or change the pitch. This is a device that you daisy chain in from the wall to here, from here to the phone, and it lets you adjust how loud the ring is and is it high, medium, or low. For some folks, sound just isn't helpful anymore, and maybe you need a visual detector. Maybe you need something that is vibration, or again, maybe just really loud. So there are devices that will flash the lights when you ring your doorbell. And most of these are wireless devices, so you don't have to hire an electrician to come in and do this. This will work plug and play. And some of them will also have sound. Then there are alarm clocks that can flash the lights and shake the bed and be really loud. Let's see if I can get this to behave. Imagine sleeping through that. And of course, really important one, visual smoke detectors. It's really important when you're dealing with hearing loss that you know you can get out of the house safely if there's a fire. If you own your own home, you would have to purchase these. Some counties will provide them, visual smoke detectors. You need to check with your county's fire department and see what is included in their program. In the state of Virginia, if you rent your home or apartment, it is the landlord's responsibility to provide visual smoke detectors upon request. So it's really important that you take care of that. You just need to write them a note saying someone in my apartment or home has a hearing loss and we need visual smoke detectors for safety. And then, of course, there are those personal amplifiers that help you hear better. It lets you turn up the volume on those one-on-one or small group communications. It's really great for riding in the car, too, when there's a lot of street noise. And you can wear it with a headset like this. Your microphone's here. Turn up and down. You could also wear it with earbuds. That's another way. If you're going to a situation like a lecture or a workshop, you may want to get an FM system, which has a transmitter and a receiver. So you put the transmitter where the speaker is, you have the receiver, and you can adjust the volume. It stays nice and consistent no matter where the speaker is in the room. You may find these in a lot of churches now as well. These kinds of devices that can help you hear better are also available out and about. The Kennedy Center has assistive listening devices installed. They also have caption performances. Movie theaters have listening devices, and some of them have captioning glasses. So it's a good idea to find out what kinds of assistive devices are out there that you can take advantage of. As I mentioned before, our center is a demonstration site for the equipment available through the Virginia Department for Deaf and Hard of Hearing. There's an application process, and you fill out the application to see if you qualify for free or reduced cost equipment. But even if you don't qualify for that program, you just want to buy devices directly, we would be happy to make an appointment with you. We can sit down and talk about the challenges that you're having and see what devices are going to be best for you. So we would love to make that appointment with you. Give us a call or send us an email and we can set that up.
I hope you enjoyed the demonstration that Debbie gave about the various types of assisted devices that are available for people with hearing loss and or may also be deaf. And she'll be providing some more information because we're going to ask her some more questions that you may be interested in knowing. So the first one is, where can these devices be purchased?
A lot of these devices, you do have to go through a specialized vendor. We do have a list of the companies that carry this kind of equipment. Now, more and more you can find them online. Certainly the vendors themselves have websites, but you can also often find them on Amazon. You just want to be careful about who the seller is. Because a lot of these devices do come with warranties, and you want to make sure that those warranties are going to be honored by the person that sells it to you. Many states, though, also have a technology assistance program where folks with hearing loss can get some of these kinds of devices, particularly the telephones and the signaling devices, through the state at a lower cost. Virginia is one of them.
All right.
Virginia Department for Deaf and Hard of Hearing has a technology assistance program, and my office, NVRC, is the demonstration site for that program. So we've got a big room set up with all these different devices where folks can make an appointment to come in. We'll sit down and talk about the challenges they're having and see what kinds of devices might work for them, for their situation, whether it's at home, at the office, that kind of thing.
It's so great for people to be able to come and see them at NVRC.
Right.
And tell us what NVRC stands for.
Northern Virginia Resource Center for Deaf and Hard of Hearing Persons.
Okay, I gave that at the beginning, but it doesn't hurt to say it again. And a very important question I want to also ask you is there any coverage by insurance or Medicare for these devices?
A lot of times, no. Certainly you can check with your insurance company and see if they would cover these devices, but for the most part, no. I have heard that some folks are able to take it off on their tax returns as part of their medically necessary equipment. So you would want to check with an accountant and see if the devices you get would qualify for that.
All right. So we had promised that in this part of the show that we would find out about hearing aids. Is a hearing aid or are hearing aids considered assistive devices, and what should they know about purchasing? I guess we should start with the first part.
Most people have hearing aids and then the other devices that can be helpful. You will find people that consider hearing aids to be hearing assistive devices because they do help you hear better.
Of course. If they wanted to purchase one, where should they go?
So it kind of goes back to that testing and finding out where your hearing loss is.
All right.
Many times your starting place is going to be going to the ear, nose, and throat doctor, going to that audiologist, and getting the thorough test. Because knowing where your hearing loss is going to enable them to be able to fit a hearing aid to your hearing loss.
All right.
So that's the biggest difference between hearing assistive devices and hearing aids.
Right.
A hearing aid, if you hear just fine here, but over here you're way down, the hearing aid can keep that level just where it is and bring this up. Whereas hearing assistive devices just amplify everything.
Yes.
And so suddenly this is too loud and this is maybe okay.
And one quick thing that, because it seems like they're more on the market now, these personal sound amplification products, is that something that people should look into as well or talk about with their doctor? What do you suggest?
Personal sound amplifiers, or PSAPs,
Yes.
are really just ear level personal amplifiers. So instead of a headset with the microphone and all of that, it may be as an earpiece. But again, it's amplifying everything. It is certainly something that, if people want to take a look at it and give it a try, maybe it's going to fit where they are right now.
Right.
But know that it is not a hearing aid. It's not tailored to your specific hearing loss. It's going to bring everything up.
All right. Well, so help us one more time. How can our viewers learn more about the programs and the services that are produced by NVRC? And are there any other resources that you would recommend?
Sure. Northern Virginia Resource Center for Deaf and Hard of Hearing. You can check our webpage, www.nvrc.org. You can send us an email or give us a call. We try to be a resource center for folks where they can find out where an audiologist is near their home, the kinds of places that you can go to buy hearing aids. What do the laws say? In Virginia, you have 30 days to try out hearing aids. That's an important thing to know.
Right.
And certainly you can make an appointment with me or my coworker Bonnie to come in and sit down and talk and tell us what your situation is, and we can find the resources and equipment that can help you.
And where are you located? Where is NVRC located?
Our office is based in Fairfax, not far from the Fair Oaks Mall. But we also serve 5 areas. We serve Fairfax, Arlington, Alexandria, Prince William, and Loudoun counties.
All right. I want to thank Debbie Jones, Resources and Technology Manager with the Northern Virginia Resource Center for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Persons, for joining me today. This program is broadcast Sundays at 5:30 p.m. and Wednesdays at 6 p.m. on Comcast Channel 69 or Verizon Channel 38 in Arlington, Virginia, or streaming live at those times on arlingtonmedia.org. Aging Matters is also on the radio. The program is broadcast every Tuesday at 2 p.m. on WERALP Arlington 96.7 FM. And you can listen to all Aging Matters radio programs by visiting mixcloud.com/Aging Matters. And finally, both radio and television Aging Matters programs are posted on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Aging Matters WERA. I want to thank you for watching Aging Matters today. And until the next time, remember, age is just a number, not a label. I hope you will join me again on the next Aging Matters program.